درود بر بینندگان عزیز تلویزیون ملی ایران. امیدوارم همه حالتون خوب باشه و اجازه بدید برای اینکه مهمونی داریم و زیاد معطل نکنم مهمون امروز رو به شما معرفی میکنم. فکر میکنم تمام شمایی که در آمریکا و در اکثر کشورها هستید آقای مایکل لدین رو میشناسید. یکی از شخصیت‌های برجسته و تینک تانک‌های مهم آمریکا هستند و ازشون خواهش کردیم مدت‌ها در هم مسافرت بودن و خیلی گرفتاری ولی محبت کردن. امروز به ما وقت دادن باهاشون صحبت میکنیم و صحبتمون راجع به اتفاقاتی است که در خاورمیانه میفته مثل سوریه و لیبی و بعد نتیجه کارها و چه اتفاقی در ایران میفته. Mr. Ledeen, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time that you're giving us. Appreciate it.
Hi, Zia. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Let me ask you, Michael, you know what's happening now in Middle East and in Syria. Let's see what's going on in Syria. Up to now, everybody was worried about a few things. One, we don't know the people they are there, where they're going to end. And then still now they worry about things that maybe the Gaddafi has, like, you know, gas, master gas, and a lot of things that we worry about it. And what do you think we're going to end and how will it become, if it comes, because we have a bad experience. If you know it after the revolution in Iran, they were talking, all the world were talking about human rights, Savak or something. Then we had the replace in the revolution, replaced with the Islamic Republic and Khomeini, and now we see it, what is this government that we have. What do you think? What will happen and who's going to support these people? We know that only for the money that they have it in here, they're going to pay the half of the money that they have in cash to these people, but there is a lot of the other things that they have it in here. That's not important now, but only the money that we're going to give to these people and government, if we give the money to the government, are we sure that government will be some government that for people, by people?
Well, no, nobody's sure. Nobody knows what's going to happen in Libya. You know, Gaddafi's still running around. His children are still running around. Gaddafi forces are attacking various places, some in Tripoli, some in other cities. So it does not look to me that this thing's going to be over in the next few hours. It's more likely days and weeks before it's finally all over. I find it hard to imagine that he will survive now. And your question about who succeeds him, who comes to power and all of that, I don't know. I don't know anybody who thinks he does know exactly what the makeup of a post-Gaddafi government in Libya would look like. All we can say on the good side is that there is not a long history of radical Islam in Libya. Most Libyans are Sufi, they're not violent, and all of that. So they're not involved with the radical Shia or the radical Sunni in other places. So that's potentially good news. On the potentially bad news side, Libya is a country with very deep tribal divisions, and it may very well be that it'll be difficult for any new government to control tribal conflict, so that's a worry. So we'll see. We'll have to see. Life is sloppy. You know, the world is very messy. And we don't even know what's going on in downtown Tripoli right now. So don't ask anybody to predict what Libya is going to look like in 6 months, because nobody knows.
Mr. Ledeen, so Libya, for me, my opinion and it's, you know, in Libya really, because, you know, Syria for me is more important. I'm very concerned about Syria.
Yeah, me too. I'm much more concerned about Syria.
Because of Syria, you know, I think it's proxy of the Iran and all the things in here. Do you think that, because, you know, it took long, and what will happen to the Assad? Is he going to leave? And if he leaves, Syria is not like Libya that you told us, that we are Sufis or something. And what will happen? Do you think that is going to solve the love problem, or will it create more problems?
Well, it'll certainly create terrible problems for Iran, because right now with Assad, Iran has a very compliant ally. And the first, I should think, automatic result of the fall of Assad, if that happens, and nobody knows if that's going to happen, and if it is, when it might happen. But if that does happen, then that will be a grave weakening of Iranian proxy armies. So it'll be a terrible blow to Hezbollah. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to train? Where are they going to be based? How will the Iranians get weapons to them and intelligence to them and instructions to them and all those other things? It'll be a huge blow to Hezbollah. And that's very good news for the civilized world, because Hezbollah is a terrible organization. It's a monstrous foreign army for the Iranians. So that would be extremely good. And it would all, and since the Syrians have also been supporting other Iranian proxies, some reliable proxies like Islamic Jihad, some off and on proxies like Hamas, it would weaken them as well. So all in all, I should think that from the standpoint of Iranian people and from the standpoint of Western security, that the fall of Assad would be a terrific thing, provided that the government that succeeds him is more pro-Western and less pro-Iranian. Well, I think the odds are very good that that will be the case. Whether such a government would then be democratic, whether it would respect human rights, how nice it would be to Syrian people, how open a society it would be, what kind of constitution it would have, I think nobody knows.
Michael, can you help us to understand, and our viewers, let's say that I'm asking this about the free words. When such a thing happens in part of the world that is very important, like in Middle East, like these countries, and starting to people to change the government, the free words, they are not bothering, or they don't think to how to go in to create or help the people to create the replacement that is, as you say, democratic or free government, is not a terrorist government or supporter of the terrorists. There's nothing that they're doing before the war starts, or that goes that far?
I think that's right. I think certainly the United States, I think, had very few contacts either with leaders of the Libyan opposition or with leaders of the Syrian opposition. I mean, since the troubles have started in Syria, they've tried to catch up. And there have been meetings at the White House, and there have been public statements of support of those Syrian opposition leaders, at least, who can come to Washington. Mostly they're based outside Syria. Yes, we're trying to catch up. But remember that one of the problems was that we had a misguided policy for quite a while. The first 2 years, anyway, of the Obama administration were devoted to efforts to make deals, bargains with Syria and Iran. And Obama had said all the way through the presidential campaign that what was wrong in the Middle East was that Bush was too nasty with these countries. And that once Obama became president, he would offer an outstretched hand to them, and he thought that they would accept it and that the Middle East would change. Well, so he tried that for a couple of years, and it didn't work out very well for him, not well at all. And of late, that policy seems to have been changing. After all, we've had now the statement from the president that it's time for Assad to go in Syria. And he has had his military officials and various diplomats being increasingly harsh with Iran and accusing Iran of killing American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is certainly true. It's been true always. And so we're getting tougher. So we're in the middle of a policy change. He got caught in the middle of a policy change. So now he's trying to catch up. I mean, of course, this is all because various administrations, and it's a very old story with regard to Iran, has never had has never tried to establish good working relations with the Iranian opposition. I don't believe that from the time of the June 2009 elections to today, that any American official ever had a serious conversation, say, with the leaders of the Green Movement, with Mousavi or Karoubi, or with the leaders of the trade union movement, people like Osan Liu and so forth. I just don't think those contacts have existed at all. And that, too, is a very old story. If you go back to Carter and the fall of the Shah, you will find that one of the scandals in Washington after the fall of the Shah was that CIA and other American intelligence organizations and American officials in general did not have any contacts with the opposition. So the United States government was surprised at who was Khomeini. They didn't know who Khomeini was. They didn't realize what a disaster he was going to be. So this mistake now repeats itself with the current situation, and we're trying to catch up. Okay, let's hope. I mean, the United States. It remains the fact that when the United States moves, the world changes. And I think you can see that with the dramatic change in Libya in the last few days, things have gotten hotter all over the region. So let's hope that they do the right thing and that eventually we get around to supporting the Iranian people, which is, of course, the most important issue.
Michael, let me tell you something. In last 32 years, and especially from 2000, that I started in NITV broadcasting, I didn't see, as you said, I didn't see any support from the government for any Iranian outside and inside. And sometimes I believe it that maybe they don't know what they want. Maybe they don't know, but for sure they cannot like the Iranian government, because the Iranian government is against the friend of the Americans and against their people, is against Israel. Now, I tell you something, it's very interesting that even the Arab countries, or like Saudi, they are afraid more than Israel from the Iranian to attack them, because they don't trust this government anymore. But when last year it happened, and people that come in the street, and then really, if the free world support them, it was very, very powerful thing. But they let it go. They let it go and nothing happened. And then as this year's that I told you, and you were there, and you helped a lot, and we couldn't even have something that we have to help the Iranian people, their voice. We have a broadcasting in radio, shortwave, television, and every time we go with our money, we're going on air, Iranian government kick us out, and then nobody stopped them. It says has a five channel, that all this channel is against America and free world and supporting all the terrorists. Nobody stopped these people. And then when they are stopping even the free world to talk to the people, we don't receive any help from the government, from the people, in not only American, in Europe even they don't do it. Why this President Obama really didn't support the Iranian people when they came in the street? It's not that they're afraid that Iranian, because they have the proxy, as you said, like Hezbollah and Syria, we're going to create a problem in that part of the world that they...
No, he was trying to make a deal with them. He wasn't afraid.
Oh, my God.
He was trying to make a deal with them. He said that. It was public. It was open.
Deal for what? How the American people, they accept that there's some government that is all from beginning burn the flag and said that to America. President of America is going to have a deal for what? And killing their own people. They're going to deal to do what?
Yes, well, I mean, it's worse than that. Never mind burning flags. They've been killing Americans all these years.
What you think that, where we're going, you think that what will happen to Iran, in Iran? And really, there is no way the American, they think as now they're doing, let's say that in Libya, and I heard today they're going to release the half of the cash money that Gaddafi had for the new government or revolutionary. But do you think that is not the time that American, they help that even Iranian, they're coming out, or the people they start to speak that what kind of the government they're going to have, what they are missing in here. Next government has to be like what? The secular and peaceful and respect for all the religion, all the people that they are in Iran. We cannot. We don't have the budget that make a meeting or a conference and talk to this. We don't have a budget even to broadcast, or nobody help us to have a shortwave to talk to all the people in village, because these people that they support the Iranian government, Michael, they are not educated people, and some of them really, they are criminal, in the top, I mean. Like all the commanders, everybody. They are really criminal. But most of the people of Iran, really, they hate this regime, and they want to change. Really, they want to change. They want to get rid of it. But it's very difficult. They're killing the people, and when no governments, nobody thinks about Iran. And even now, we see it, China and Russia, they playing game, everybody going after oil and money, or selling the arms or something to them. Iranian people, they think this is a free world, and they are a freedom. They believe on the freedom, really.
Well, I think the Iranian people do, but certainly the Iranian regime does not. I've been writing this for more than 20 years, as you know, so you don't have to convince me. I'm already convinced.
No, I'm just asking you what's the solution. I'm asking you, really, is it American policy will change? Is Obama is going to continue what he was thinking, and is going to beg the Iranian government or tell to the Iranian government, let's be friend. And friend of what? What they believing. They believing that everybody, not only Jews, everybody that doesn't believe that, even Shia religion, they have to go die, because the God they don't like them. And how are we going to be the friend with the Iranian government?
Yeah, well, as I say, I hope now that Obama has given up on that. But it's not only Obama. Every American president, from Jimmy Carter to Obama, has tried to make a deal with the Islamic Republic. Every single one, all of them, without exception. So, while I'm no great fan of Obama's, he's not unique in making this mistake. It's a mistake that every American president has made since 1979.
All right, I don't want to, because it's late in Washington, D.C., let me ask you the last question. Do you have any idea when you think Iran will start to get free? I mean, the people of Iran?
Oh, I think it started to get free visibly. When? Around 2003, there started to be demonstrations and so forth. And I think that, in fact, if the Bush administration had supported the general strike in 2003 and many demonstrations that were going on then, that it might have been possible to bring the regime down then. Then certainly again in 2009, 2010. I mean, it's quite clear, as you said before, that the Iranian people hate this regime and want to be rid of it. The regime itself, I think, is weak. I think it's hollow. I think that Khamenei is really quite surprised that he is still in power. I think he expected to be removed by now. And I think that at any time the Western world gets around to finally saying, okay, freedom for Iran, that the regime will fall. But I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't even know if that's going to happen. I believe, it looks to me, that policy is beginning to change. But, these things are slow, and there's so many other things going on that distract leaders. Obama now will be involved in a re-election campaign. He doesn't really want to talk a lot about Iran in his re-election campaign because people will start asking him questions that he doesn't want to answer. People will say, well, how come you didn't support them? Well, how come it's only now that you figured it out? He doesn't want to deal with that. So he will not be eager to be talking about this in public. I don't know if the Republicans have any great desire to talk about it in public. Most of them don't have particularly great records either. So we'll see. I mean, I hoped very much that Sarkozy would be a more vigorous leader in the West of a tougher policy toward Iran. But so far as I know, the only Western leader who has said explicitly that the West must support the Iranian opposition, oddly enough, is Berlusconi in Italy. He said it publicly several times. But so we'll see. Who knows? I'm not a prophet, Zia. You know, I'm an historian.
I know.
I don't, but I think right now all we can say about the Middle East is that every possibility is open, that it's bubbling over, that all kinds of things can happen, and nobody knows what's going to happen because God put man on earth to make mistakes so that he could laugh at us. We are a source of entertainment for the divine humor. And believe me, we all make lots of mistakes, and our leaders make mistakes. We can comfort ourselves with the thought that nobody makes as many mistakes as the mullahs in Iran. I mean, Tehran, they have wrecked that country, which should be a very rich and prosperous and successful country, and they've just taken it straight to ruin. So we can assume that they're going to make lots of mistakes in the future, too, perhaps even more than our mistakes. So we'll see.
Michael, Khomeini, even I was in Iran, and even I didn't know who's Khomeini. I never believed that the Shah, that somebody like Khomeini would come in and replace and make a government. And when it came, it still is like a movie in front of my eyes. I see it that everybody, all the newspapers, Figaro, I don't know, the New York Times, everybody was supporting Khomeini, God of the man of the God, or something like that. And when they came to the power after Carter, for 25 years, even we didn't bother to ask why they're doing, why they're killing everybody, why they're going after everybody that is against them, or they have a different ideas, different things, like a socialist, a capitalist, or whatever, Shah or republic. But nobody did anything till they got to the power. They got they got the rockets. They got together with China and North Korea. And really, what was a mistake of the war to replace the Shah with someone like him?
Well, look, this conversation can go on for days, but let's just say that the biggest mistakes made in Iran with regard to Khomeini were the Shah's mistakes. It was the Shah the Shah made the most fundamental mistakes. It was the Shah who told Giscard that it was okay for Khomeini to go to France. He didn't appreciate how well Khomeini could operate from Europe as opposed to operating out of Najaf. And, he made endless mistakes all the time. So then we chimed in. Carter made lots of mistakes. And everybody else did too. As I say, I'm an historian. Most of human history is people making mistakes. And we see it today. That's the way it is. It's unpleasant. We're imperfect.
Michael, thank you very much.
It's always a joy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, man. Thank you, sir. اجازه بدید که بریم و برگردیم و من یک کوتاه براتون بذارید الان اصلا توضیح بدم. من صحبتامون راجع به سوریه بود و لیبی بود و بعد هم به ایران. آقای لدین اینطوری بیان کردن که اشتباهات زیادی کردن، همه مردم اشتباه میکنن و آقای اوباما هم مرتب میگفتن میخوان با ایران صحبت کنن، با ایران کنار بیان و اینم اشتباهیشون بود. آقای کارتر هم اینطوری شد و وقت ازش پرسیدم چگونه شد که دنیا به جای شاه خمینی را آورد، گفت اشتباه از خود شاه بود، به خاطر که این خود شاه به ژیسکار دیستن گفتش که خمینی اگر بیاد در فرانسه اصلا اشکالی نداره، میتونه بیاد در اونجا باشه. در هر حال ایشون میگویند که راجع به لیبی که فکر میکردن که تموم خواهد شد، ولی اینکه چطوری میشه جایانشین چه خواهد شد میگه هنوز معلوم نیست. من ازشون پرسیدم آیا کشورهای دیگه، منظورم خود آمریکا هم بود، آیا در اونجا کسانی را دارن که باز به جای دیگه نرسه؟ گفت حتما در هر دو جا افرادی هستن که در هر با گروه‌های مخالف صحبت میکنن و مواظبن که به تبدیل باز هم به یه گروه‌های تروریستی در اونجا به قدرت نرسن. ولی داشت میگفتش که لیبی اکثرا صوفی هستن، بنابراین صوفی‌ها هیچ وقت طرف کشتار و تروریستی و اینها نخواهند رفت. و راجع به سوریه هم میگفت که رفتن سوریه بسیار کمک خواهد کرد به سقوط، یعنی به ضعیف شدن جمهوری اسلامی، به در اینکه جمهوری اسلامی سوریه محلی است که جایی است که همه خودمون هم می‌دونیم به حزب الله از طریق سوریه داره کمک میکنه و تمام کاراش به اونجا میره. در حقیقت دست پای جمهوری اسلامی بسته میشه. خب اجازه بدید که بریم و برگردیم و در خدمتتون هستیم و تلفن هم باز میکنیم. اگر عقیده دارید یا سوالی دارید هم میتونید صحبت کنیم، وگرنه به ما گوش کنید. خواهش میکنم. میدونم هی میاد بیرون، هی میذاشتم شما.